Introduction to fermented beverages. Fermented beverages have been an integral part of human culture for millennia, serving roles in nutrition, ritual, and social interaction. These drinks are produced through the metabolic action of microorganisms, primarily yeast, which convert sugars into alcohol and carbon dioxide. Understanding their origins provides insight into human ingenuity and adaptation across diverse civilizations. The process of fermentation itself is a natural phenomenon, harnessed and refined over centuries to create a vast array of distinct beverages. This course will delve into the specific methods for wine and beer, two of the most globally recognized fermented drinks. Their production involves a delicate balance of biological processes, raw material selection, and environmental control. The cultural significance of wine and beer extends beyond mere consumption, often intertwining with religious ceremonies, celebrations, and daily life. Different regions developed unique styles based on available resources and local traditions, leading to the rich diversity we see today. From ancient Sumerian beer recipes to Roman viticulture, these beverages have shaped economies and societies. Exploring this historical context enriches our appreciation for the craft and the continuous evolution of production techniques. This foundational understanding sets the stage for a deeper dive into the specific methodologies of wine and beer making. History of winemaking. The history of winemaking traces back thousands of years, with archaeological evidence suggesting its origins in the Caucasus region, specifically modern-day Georgia, around 6000 BCE. Early wine production was likely accidental, involving wild grapes fermenting naturally in containers. Over time, humans learned to cultivate grapevines and control the fermentation process, leading to more consistent and palatable results. Ancient civilizations such as the Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans significantly advanced viticulture and winemaking techniques. They developed specialized tools, storage vessels, and methods for aging and transporting wine, transforming it into a staple of their diets and cultures. Wine became a symbol of status, a medicinal agent, and a central element in religious ceremonies, spreading across the Mediterranean and beyond. During the Roman Empire, wine production flourished, with vineyards established throughout Europe, laying the groundwork for many of today's renowned wine regions. Monasteries played a crucial role in preserving winemaking knowledge and techniques during the Middle Ages, particularly after the fall of Rome. They meticulously cultivated vineyards and refined production methods, often for sacramental purposes. The Renaissance and subsequent centuries saw further innovations, including the development of stronger glass bottles and cork stoppers, which allowed for better aging and storage. The 19th century brought challenges like phylloxera, a vine-destroying louse, which devastated European vineyards, but also led to the widespread use of grafted rootstock, a testament to the industry's resilience and adaptability. Modern winemaking continues to evolve, blending ancient traditions with scientific advancements. History of beer brewing. The history of beer brewing is as ancient as civilization itself, with evidence suggesting its origins in Mesopotamia around 4000 BCE. Early beer was likely a thick, nutritious gruel made from fermented grains, often consumed as a staple food rather than purely for recreation. Sumerian tablets describe brewing processes, and the Code of Hammurabi included laws regulating beer production and consumption. Ancient Egyptians also embraced beer, considering it a divine gift and a vital part of their diet, used in religious ceremonies and as payment for laborers. Their brewing methods involved baking bread-like loaves from barley, crumbling them into water, and allowing natural fermentation to occur. This early beer was often cloudy and contained residual solids, differing significantly from modern clear beers. As brewing spread across Europe, it evolved with local ingredients and techniques. Germanic and Celtic tribes were skilled brewers, using various grains and often incorporating herbs and spices for flavor and preservation before hops became dominant. During the Middle Ages, monasteries became centers of brewing excellence, perfecting recipes and ensuring consistent quality. Monks brewed beer for their own consumption, for pilgrims, and for sale. Contributing significantly to the development of brewing science, the German purity law, Reinheitsgebot of 1516, which stipulated that beer could only be made from water, barley, and hops, yeast was later added, marked a pivotal moment in standardizing beer production. The Industrial Revolution brought mechanization and scientific understanding, transforming brewing into a large-scale industry, while the discovery of yeast's role by Louis Pasteur revolutionized fermentation control. Basic principles of fermentation. Fermentation is a metabolic process that converts sugar to acids, gases, or alcohol using yeast or bacteria. In the context of wine and beer, yeast is the primary microorganism responsible for converting grape sugars, glucose and fructose, or malt sugars, maltose, into ethanol, alcohol, and carbon dioxide. This process is anaerobic, meaning it occurs in the absence of oxygen. The yeast consumes the available sugars, multiplying rapidly in the initial stages, and then continues to produce alcohol as a byproduct of its energy metabolism. The specific yeast strain used significantly influences the final flavor profile of the beverage, contributing various esters and phenols. Temperature control is paramount during fermentation, as it affects yeast activity, the rate of sugar conversion, and the production of desirable or undesirable flavor compounds. Beyond alcohol production, fermentation also contributes to the complexity of flavors and aromas in wine and beer. Different yeast strains produce distinct aromatic compounds, while other microorganisms, like lactic acid bacteria, can perform secondary fermentations that modify acidity and mouthfeel. For instance, malolactic fermentation in wine converts sharp malic acid into softer lactic acid. The duration and conditions of fermentation are carefully managed by vintners and brewers to achieve specific characteristics in their final products. Understanding these fundamental principles is crucial for controlling the process and ensuring the quality and consistency of fermented beverages. It is the core biological engine driving the transformation of simple ingredients into complex and enjoyable drinks. Grape varieties and terroir. The foundation of any great wine begins with the grape variety, primarily Vitis vinifera, which encompasses thousands of cultivars, each with unique characteristics. Popular varieties like Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Chardonnay, and Pinot Noir are globally recognized for their distinct flavor profiles, acidity levels, and tannin structures. These varietals thrive in specific climates and soil types, influencing the wine's ultimate expression. Understanding the genetic makeup and growth habits of different grapes is crucial for selecting the right varietal for a particular region and desired wine style. The choice of grape dictates much of the wine's inherent qualities, from its aromatic intensity to its aging potential. Winemakers carefully consider these factors to match varietal to vineyard site. Terroir is a French term that encapsulates the complete natural environment in which a particular wine is produced, including factors such as soil, topography, and climate. It refers to how a particular region's climate, soils, and aspect, terrain, affect the taste of wine. The interaction of these elements creates a unique sense of place that is reflected in the wine. For example, grapes grown in cool climates tend to have higher acidity and lighter body, while those from warm climates often produce wines with riper fruit flavors and fuller body. Soil composition influences drainage, nutrient availability, and heat retention, all of which impact vine health and grape development. Understanding and managing terroir is paramount for producing wines that truly express their origin and achieve complexity. Harvesting and crushing grapes. Harvesting is a critical stage in winemaking, as the timing directly impacts the grape's sugar, acid, and phenolic ripeness. Winemakers must decide the optimal moment to pick, balancing sugar content for potential alcohol with acidity for freshness and flavor development. Grapes can be harvested manually by hand, which allows for careful selection and minimizes damage, or mechanically using specialized machinery. Manual harvesting is often preferred for high-quality wines, especially those from steep vineyards or delicate varietals. Mechanical harvesting is more efficient and cost-effective for larger, flatter vineyards, The choice of method depends on the wine style, vineyard conditions, and economic considerations. Precision in harvesting ensures the best possible starting material for fermentation. Once harvested, grapes are typically transported to the winery for crushing and destemming. Destemming involves separating the berries from their stems, which can impart bitter green flavors if left in contact with the juice. Crushing gently breaks the grape skins, releasing the juice and pulp, creating what is known as must. For white wines, the must is usually pressed immediately to separate the juice from the skins, minimizing skin contact. For red wines, the skins are kept in contact with the juice during fermentation to extract color, tannins, and flavor compounds. Modern crushers are designed to be gentle, preventing excessive maceration of seeds and skins, which can release undesirable compounds. This initial processing prepares the grapes for the fermentation journey. Primary fermentation, white wine. For white wine production, primary fermentation typically begins after the grapes have been harvested, destemmed, crushed, and then pressed to separate the juice from the skins, seeds, and stems. This juice, known as must, is then transferred to fermentation vessels, which are often temperature-controlled stainless steel tanks. Before fermentation, the must may undergo clarification to remove solids, resulting in a cleaner, fruitier wine. A selected yeast strain is usually inoculated into the must to ensure a controlled and predictable fermentation. Temperature control is crucial for white wines, often kept cooler, 12 to 20 degrees Celsius or 54 to 68 Fahrenheit, to preserve delicate fruit aromas and prevent the formation of undesirable byproducts. This cooler fermentation proceeds more slowly, allowing for the development of complex aromatics. During primary fermentation, the yeast converts the sugars in the grape must into alcohol and carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide is allowed to escape through airlocks or pressure relief valves. The duration of primary fermentation can vary from a few days to several weeks, depending on the sugar content, yeast strain, and desired wine style. As fermentation progresses, the sugar levels decrease and the alcohol content increases. Winemakers closely monitor specific gravity, temperature, and sensory characteristics to track the fermentation's progress. Once the desired sugar level is reached, or the yeast has consumed all available fermentable sugars, the primary fermentation concludes, and the wine is ready for further processing or aging. This stage is fundamental in shaping the wine's core character. Primary fermentation, red wine. Red wine primary fermentation differs significantly from white wine due to the crucial role of grape skins. After destemming and crushing, the must, which includes skins, seeds, and juice, is transferred to fermentation vessels. These can be open-top fermenters, stainless steel tanks, or even large wooden vats. The skins remain in contact with the juice throughout fermentation, a process called maceration, which is essential for extracting color. Tannins and flavor compounds. Yeast is typically inoculated, and fermentation proceeds at warmer temperatures, 20 to 30 degrees Celsius or 68 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit, than white wines, as heat aids in extraction. This warmer environment encourages the release of desirable compounds from the grape solids, contributing to the red wine's characteristic depth and complexity. During red wine fermentation, the carbon dioxide produced by the yeast pushes the grape skins and solids to the surface, forming a dense layer known as the cap. Managing this cap is vital for proper extraction and to prevent spoilage. Winemakers employ various techniques, such as punching down, pigeage, where the cap is manually pushed back into the juice, or pumping over, remontage, where juice from the bottom of the tank is pumped over the top of the cap. These methods ensure maximum contact between the skins and the fermenting juice, facilitating the extraction of color and tannins. The duration of skin contact varies depending on the desired wine style, ranging from a few days for lighter reds to several weeks for more robust, age-worthy wines. Once primary fermentation is complete and sufficient extraction has occurred, the wine is pressed off the skins. Malolactic fermentation and aging. After primary fermentation, many red wines and some white wines undergo a secondary fermentation known as malolactic fermentation, MLF. This process is carried out by lactic acid bacteria, which convert the sharp, tart malic acid found naturally in grapes, similar to apples, into softer, creamier lactic acid. MLF reduces the overall acidity of the wine, making it smoother and more approachable. It also contributes to a more complex flavor profile, often imparting buttery or nutty notes, particularly in Chardonnay. While MLF is almost universally desired in red wines to soften their acidity and enhance stability, its application in white wines is a stylistic choice, depending on whether the winemaker desires a crisp, fruit-driven profile or a richer, creamier texture. Careful monitoring is essential to ensure the desired outcome. Following fermentation, many wines, especially reds and premium whites, are aged to develop complexity and integrate flavors. Oak barrels are commonly used for aging as they impart flavors like vanilla, toast, and spice, while also allowing for slow, controlled oxidation. This micro-oxygenation helps to soften tannins in red wines and develop more nuanced aromas. The type of oak, French, American, Hungarian, toast level, and age of the barrel all significantly influence the wine's character. Aging can also occur in stainless steel tanks or concrete eggs, which provide a neutral environment, preserving fruit freshness. The duration of aging varies widely, from a few months to several years, depending on the wine style and desired maturity. Proper cellar conditions, including temperature and humidity, are crucial during this period. Racking and fining wine. After fermentation and often after aging, wine contains suspended solids such as dead yeast cells, lees, grape particles, and tartrate crystals. Racking is the process of carefully transferring the wine from one vessel to another, leaving these sediment layers behind. This practice helps to clarify the wine and prevent off flavors that can develop from prolonged contact with lees. Racking is typically performed multiple times during the winemaking process, especially after primary fermentation, malolactic fermentation, and before bottling. The goal is to gently separate the clear wine from the undesirable solids without introducing excessive oxygen, which can lead to oxidation. Winemakers use gravity or pumps to facilitate this transfer, ensuring minimal disturbance to the sediment. Fining is another clarification technique used to remove suspended particles and stabilize the wine. It involves adding a fining agent to the wine, which binds to specific particles and causes them to precipitate out of solution, settling at the bottom of the tank or barrel. Common fining agents include bentonite clay for removing proteins, egg whites or casein for removing harsh tannins, and isinglass for clarifying white wines. The choice of fining agent depends on the specific fault or desired characteristic. Fining not only improves the wine's visual clarity, but can also enhance its flavor and aroma by removing undesirable compounds. After fining, the wine is racked again to separate it from the settled fining agent and the bound particles, preparing it for filtration and bottling. Filtration and stabilization. Filtration is a winemaking technique used to remove remaining suspended particles, microorganisms, and other undesirable elements from the wine, resulting in a clear and stable product. Various filtration methods exist, ranging from coarse filtration, which removes larger particles, to sterile filtration, which removes yeast and bacteria, preventing further fermentation or spoilage in the bottle. The choice of filter type and pour size depends on the desired level of clarity and stability, as well as the wine style. While filtration ensures visual brilliance and microbial stability, it can also, if done excessively, strip the wine of some desirable flavor and aroma compounds. Winemakers carefully balance these considerations to achieve the optimal outcome for their wines. Modern filtration systems are highly efficient and designed to be as gentle as possible. Stabilization techniques are employed to prevent unwanted changes in wine after bottling, such as the formation of tartrate crystals or protein hazes. Cold stabilization involves chilling the wine to near freezing temperatures for a period, causing tartaric acid to precipitate as potassium bitartrate crystals. These crystals are then removed by racking or filtration. Heat stabilization, often using bentonite clay, removes unstable proteins that could cause a haze in bottled white wines. Other methods include chemical stabilization using sulfur dioxide to inhibit microbial growth and oxidation, or physical stabilization through membrane filtration. The goal of stabilization is to ensure the wine remains visually appealing and free from faults throughout its shelf life, providing a consistent and enjoyable experience for the consumer. These steps are crucial for commercial viability and consumer satisfaction. Bottling and storage of wine. Bottling is the final stage in the winemaking process, where the finished wine is transferred into bottles, sealed, and prepared for distribution and consumption. This step requires meticulous attention to hygiene and oxygen management to prevent spoilage and oxidation. Wineries use sophisticated bottling lines that can rinse bottles, fill them precisely, and apply closures such as corks, screw caps, or synthetic stoppers. The choice of closure significantly impacts the wine's aging potential and susceptibility to faults like cork taint. Inert gases, such as nitrogen or argon, are often used to purge bottles before filling and to blanket the wine during transfer, minimizing oxygen exposure. Proper bottling ensures the wine's quality is preserved from the winery to the consumer's glass. Once bottled, wine requires appropriate storage conditions to age gracefully and maintain its quality. Ideal storage involves a cool, consistent temperature, around 12 to 15 degrees Celsius or 54 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Moderate humidity, 70 to 80% to prevent corks from drying out, and protection from light, vibrations, and strong odors. Light, especially UV light, can cause light strike, leading to unpleasant flavors. Vibrations can disturb sediment and accelerate chemical reactions. Consistent temperature is crucial, as fluctuations can cause the wine to expand and contract, potentially compromising the seal. Wines intended for long-term aging benefit most from these controlled environments, allowing their complex flavors and aromas to develop over time. Proper storage is as important as the winemaking itself for the final enjoyment of the product. Malt, grains and malting process. Malt is the soul of beer, providing the fermentable sugars, color, and much of the flavor. While various grains can be malted, barley is the most common due to its high starch content, husk, which aids in filtration and enzyme activity. Other grains like wheat, rye, and oats are also used to impart specific characteristics. The malting process involves three main steps: steeping, germination, and kilning. Steeping involves soaking the grains in water to increase their moisture content, initiating metabolic activity. This prepares the grain for the next crucial stage, where enzymes begin to develop. The quality and type of grain selected directly impact the beer's body, sweetness, and overall character. Brewers carefully choose their malt bill to achieve desired beer styles. Germination is the stage where the steeped grains are allowed to sprout, developing enzymes that will later convert starches into fermentable sugars during mashing. This process is carefully controlled to ensure optimal enzyme development without excessive rootlet growth, which consumes too much starch. Once sufficient enzymes are formed, the germination is halted by kilning. Kilning involves drying the malt with hot air, which stops germination and develops distinct flavors and colors. Different kilning temperatures and durations produce various types of malt, from pale base malts, e.g. Pilsner, pale ale, that provide most of the fermentable sugars, to darker specialty malts, e.g. crystal, chocolate, roasted barley, that contribute rich colors and complex flavors like caramel, toast, or coffee. The malting process is a delicate balance of biological and thermal control, transforming raw grain into a brewer's essential ingredient. Hops, varieties and usage. Hops, Cumulus lupulus, are the flowering cones of the hop plant, primarily used in brewing for their bitterness, aroma, and preservative qualities. They are a defining ingredient in beer, balancing the sweetness of malt and contributing a wide spectrum of flavors and aromas, from citrusy and floral to earthy and spicy. The bitterness in beer comes from alpha acids in the hops, which are isomerized during the boil. Higher alpha acid content means more bitterness. Hop varieties are broadly categorized into bittering hops, which have high alpha acid content and are added early in the boil, and aroma hops, which are lower in alpha acids but rich in volatile oils that contribute delicate aromas, added later in the boil or after fermentation. Understanding hop chemistry is key to crafting balanced and flavorful beers. Beyond bitterness and aroma, hops also possess antibacterial properties that help inhibit spoilage organisms, contributing to beer stability. The timing of hop additions is crucial. Early additions, 60 to 90 minutes into the boil, contribute primarily bitterness as the volatile aroma compounds boil off. Mid-boil additions, 30 to 45 minutes, offer a balance of bitterness and some aroma. Late additions, 5 to 15 minutes, and whirlpool additions after the boil during cooling maximize aroma and flavor without significant bitterness. Dry hopping, where hops are added to the fermenter after primary fermentation, is a technique used to impart intense hop aroma without increasing bitterness. The vast array of hop varieties and their versatile application allows brewers to create an endless range of beer styles, each with its unique hop character, from classic noble hops to modern experimental varieties. Hops are a brewer's palate. Water chemistry for brewing. Water, often overlooked, is a critical ingredient in brewing, comprising over 90% of beer's volume. Its mineral composition significantly impacts mash pH, enzyme activity, hop utilization, and the final flavor profile of the beer. Different beer styles historically developed in regions with specific water profiles, leading to the characteristic tastes we associate with them today. For example, the soft water of Pilsen is ideal for delicate lagers, while the hard, sulfate-rich water of Burton-on-Trent is perfect for hoppy pale ales. Understanding the various ions present in water, such as calcium, magnesium, sulfate, and chloride, allows brewers to adjust their water to suit a particular beer style. This precise control over water chemistry is a hallmark of advanced brewing. Brewers can modify their water using various techniques to achieve the desired profile. This includes adding brewing salts, like gypsum for sulfates or calcium chloride for chlorides, to increase specific ion concentrations, or using reverse osmosis, RO, to strip water of all minerals, and then building a profile from scratch. Adjusting mash pH is particularly important, as it affects enzyme efficiency during mashing, influencing sugar extraction and fermentability. A proper mash pH, typically 5.2 to 5.6, is crucial for optimal starch conversion. Furthermore, water alkalinity influences the buffering capacity, impacting how easily pH can be adjusted. Mastering water chemistry allows brewers to replicate historical beer styles or create entirely new ones, providing a powerful tool for flavor control and consistency. It transforms plain water into a tailored ingredient. Yeast, strains, and fermentation. Yeast is the single-celled microorganism responsible for converting fermentable sugars into alcohol and carbon dioxide, making it the most vital ingredient in both wine and beer production. Different strains of yeast, primarily Saccharomyces cerevisiae, ale yeast, and Saccharomyces pastorianus, lager yeast, exhibit distinct characteristics that profoundly influence the final product. Ale yeasts typically ferment at warmer temperatures, producing a wider range of esters and phenols that contribute fruity and spicy notes. Lager yeasts prefer cooler temperatures, resulting in a cleaner, crisper flavor profile with fewer fermentation byproducts. The choice of yeast strain is paramount, as it dictates much of the beverage's aromatic and flavor complexity. Brewers and vintners carefully select strains to achieve specific stylistic goals. Beyond the primary ale and lager distinctions, numerous specialized yeast strains exist, each contributing unique attributes. Some yeasts are highly flocculent, meaning they clump together and settle out quickly, resulting in clearer beverages, Others are less flocculent, remaining suspended longer and contributing to haze. Attenuation, the degree to which yeast ferments sugars, also varies, impacting the final sweetness and body of the wine or beer. Yeast health and pitching rate, the amount of yeast added to the wort or must, are critical factors for a successful fermentation. Healthy yeast ferments efficiently and produces fewer off-flavors. Proper yeast management, including rehydration, nutrient addition, and temperature control, ensures a robust and predictable fermentation, leading to a high-quality finished product. It is the living engine of the brewing and winemaking process. Mashing and lautering. Mashing is a crucial step in beer brewing where malted grains are mixed with hot water to convert starches into fermentable sugars. This process typically occurs in a vessel called a mash tun. Brewers employ various mash schedules involving specific temperature rests, as different enzymes become active at different temperatures. For instance, beta-glucanase works at lower temperatures to break down gums, while beta-amylase and alpha-amylase convert starches into fermentable sugars, maltose, and unfermentable dextrins, respectively. The duration and temperature of these rests influence the wort's fermentability, affecting the final beer's body, sweetness, and alcohol content. Proper mash pH is also critical for optimal enzyme activity, usually maintained between 5.2 and 5.6. This complex enzymatic process is the heart of sugar extraction. Following the mash, the next step is lautering, which involves separating the sweet liquid, known as wort, from the spent grain. This process typically occurs in the same mash tun, which often has a false bottom or filter plates. Lautering consists of two main stages: wort recirculation and sparging. During recirculation, the first runnings of wort, which can be cloudy, are gently returned to the top of the grain bed until the wort runs clear. This establishes a natural filter bed. Sparging then involves rinsing the grain bed with hot water, sparge water, to extract any remaining sugars. The temperature and pH of the sparge water are carefully controlled to avoid extracting undesirable tannins from the grain husks. Efficient lautering maximizes sugar extraction and provides a clear wort for the subsequent boil, ensuring a good yield and quality beer. Boiling and hopping the wort. After lautering, the sweet wort is transferred to the brew kettle for boiling, a critical stage that serves multiple purposes. Boiling sterilizes the wort, eliminating any wild yeasts or bacteria that could spoil the beer. It also halts enzymatic activity, fixing the sugar profile established during mashing. Furthermore, boiling causes proteins to coagulate and settle out, forming what is known as the hop break, which contributes to beer clarity and stability. The boil typically lasts for 60 to 90 minutes, during which time water evaporates, concentrating the sugars and flavors in the wort. This concentration is important for achieving the desired original gravity and body of the final beer. The vigorous rolling boil is essential for these transformations. Hopping is an integral part of the boiling process, where hops are added to impart bitterness, flavor, and aroma. Hops contain alpha acids that isomerize during the boil, becoming soluble and contributing bitterness. The timing of hop additions is crucial. Bittering hops are added early in the boil, for example 60 minutes, to maximize alpha acid isomerization. Flavor hops are added in the middle of the boil, for example 15 to 30 minutes, and aroma hops are added very late, for example 5 minutes or at flameout, to preserve their volatile oils. The intense heat of the boil drives off many delicate aroma compounds, so late additions are key for hop-forward beers. After the boil, the wort is rapidly cooled, and the hop break and hop solids are often separated through a whirlpool or filter before yeast pitching. This ensures a clean, clear wort for fermentation. Cooling and pitching yeast after the boil. The wort must be rapidly cooled to the appropriate fermentation temperature for the chosen yeast strain. This rapid cooling, typically from near boiling to 15 to 25 degrees Celsius, 59 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit for ales, or 8 to 15 degrees Celsius, 46 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit for lagers, is crucial for several reasons. Firstly, it minimizes the risk of infection by airborne wild yeasts and bacteria, which thrive in warm wort. Secondly, it helps to cold break proteins and tannins, causing them to precipitate out and contributing to beer clarity. Thirdly, it prepares the wort for yeast pitching, as yeast can be damaged by excessively hot temperatures. Brewers use various methods for cooling, including immersion chillers, plate chillers, or counterflow chillers, which efficiently transfer heat away from the wort. This step is a race against time and contamination. Once the wort has reached the target temperature, healthy yeast is pitched or introduced into the fermenter. The pitching rate, or the amount of yeast added per volume of wort, is critical for a successful fermentation. Too little yeast can lead to a slow, stressed fermentation, resulting in off flavors and incomplete attenuation. Too much yeast can lead to rapid fermentation, also potentially producing undesirable byproducts. Brewers often rehydrate dry yeast, or prepare a yeast starter from liquid yeast to ensure a sufficient quantity of active, healthy cells. Oxygenation of the wort before pitching is also important, as yeast requires oxygen for initial cell growth and reproduction. This initial burst of oxygen allows the yeast to build strong cell walls before switching to anaerobic fermentation. Proper cooling and pitching set the stage for a healthy and efficient fermentation, directly impacting the final beer's quality and flavor profile. Fermentation and conditioning beer. Once yeast is pitched into the cooled wort, primary fermentation begins, typically lasting from a few days to 2 weeks, depending on the yeast strain, temperature, and sugar content. During this active phase, the yeast rapidly consumes fermentable sugars, producing alcohol, carbon dioxide, and a range of flavor compounds, esters, phenols, diacetyl. The fermenter will show signs of vigorous activity, such as bubbling airlocks and the krausen, a thick layer of foam forming on the surface of the beer. Temperature control is paramount during primary fermentation to guide yeast activity and prevent the production of off flavors. Brewers closely monitor specific gravity to track the conversion of sugars and ensure the fermentation is progressing as expected. This stage defines the beer's fundamental alcoholic and flavor profile. After primary fermentation, beer undergoes a conditioning phase, which can involve several steps to refine its flavor, aroma, and clarity. This often includes a diacetyl rest for lagers, where the temperature is slightly raised to allow yeast to reabsorb and metabolize diacetyl, a buttery off flavor. Secondary fermentation, while less common in modern brewing, might involve transferring the beer to a new vessel to age on fruit or wood, or to allow for further yeast activity. Cold crashing, chilling the beer to near freezing temperatures, helps yeast and other particles to settle out, improving clarity. Dry hopping may also occur during conditioning to impart fresh hop aromas. The conditioning phase allows flavors to mellow and meld, resulting in a smoother, more polished final product. It is the final refinement before packaging, ensuring the beer is ready for consumption. Sanitation and sterilization. Sanitation and sterilization are arguably the most critical aspects of both wine and beer making, directly impacting product quality, safety, and consistency. Sanitation refers to reducing the number of microorganisms to a safe level, while sterilization aims to eliminate all microorganisms. In brewing and winemaking, strict sanitation protocols are essential to prevent contamination by wild yeasts, bacteria, and molds, which can produce off flavors, spoilage, or even render the product undrinkable. Every piece of equipment that comes into contact with wort, must, or finished product must be thoroughly cleaned and sanitized. This includes fermenters, hoses, pumps, bottles, and even measuring instruments. A single lapse in sanitation can ruin an entire batch, highlighting its paramount importance. Effective sanitation involves a two-step process: cleaning and sanitizing. Cleaning removes visible dirt, grime, and organic matter using detergents and brushes. This step is crucial because sanitizers are ineffective on dirty surfaces. After cleaning, sanitizing agents are applied to kill remaining microorganisms. Common sanitizers include iodine-based solutions, acid-based sanitizers, and peracetic acid. For some applications, particularly in large commercial operations, steam or hot water sterilization may be used. Proper rinsing after sanitization is also important to prevent chemical residues from affecting the product. Implementing a rigorous cleaning and sanitizing regimen throughout the entire production process, from raw material handling to bottling, is non-negotiable for producing high-quality, stable, and safe fermented beverages. It is the invisible guardian of quality. Common faults in wine. Wine faults are undesirable characteristics that detract from the wine's quality and enjoyment, often caused by microbial spoilage, chemical reactions, or improper winemaking techniques. One of the most infamous faults is cork taint, caused by the compound 2,4,6-trichloroanisole, TCA, which imparts a musty, damp cardboard aroma. Oxidation is another common fault, occurring when wine is exposed to too much oxygen, leading to nutty, sherry-like aromas and a loss of fresh fruit character. Volatile acidity, VA, primarily caused by acetic acid bacteria, results in vinegary or nail polish remover aromas. These faults can significantly diminish the sensory experience and are a constant concern for winemakers. Identifying and preventing them is crucial for producing high-quality wine. Other common wine faults include Brett or Brettanomyces, a wild yeast that produces barnyard, leathery, or band-aid aromas, often considered a fault in many wine styles. Reduction, characterized by aromas of rotten eggs or burnt rubber, can occur when wine is deprived of oxygen during fermentation or aging. Light strike, caused by exposure to UV light, can lead to aromas of cooked cabbage or wet wool. Understanding the causes of these faults, from microbial contamination to improper storage, is essential for both winemakers and consumers. Winemakers employ rigorous sanitation, controlled fermentation, and careful aging practices to minimize their occurrence. For consumers, recognizing these faults helps in evaluating wine quality and understanding why a bottle might be less enjoyable than expected. Prevention is always better than cure in winemaking. Common faults in beer. Like wine, beer can also suffer from various faults that negatively impact its sensory qualities, often stemming from microbial contamination, improper brewing practices, or poor storage. Diacetyl is a common fault, characterized by a buttery or butterscotch aroma and flavor, often caused by stressed yeast or insufficient conditioning. Dimethyl sulfide, DMS, imparts a cooked corn or vegetable aroma and is typically a result of insufficient boiling of the wort or bacterial contamination. Acetaldehyde, which smells and tastes like green apples or freshly cut grass, indicates an incomplete fermentation or premature separation from yeast. Recognizing these off flavors is crucial for brewers to diagnose and correct issues in their process. These faults can significantly detract from the beer's enjoyment and are a sign of brewing imperfections. Other common beer faults include light-struck or skunky beer, caused by exposure to UV light, which reacts with hop compounds to produce a sulfurous aroma. Oxidation, resulting from excessive oxygen exposure after fermentation, leads to stale, cardboard-like or sherry-like flavors. Phenolic off-flavors, such as clove or medicinal notes, can be caused by certain wild yeasts or sanitization issues. Infection by wild bacteria or yeast can introduce a range of sour, vinegary, or funky flavors. Brewers employ strict sanitation, precise temperature control, proper yeast management, and careful packaging to prevent these faults. For consumers, understanding these common off-flavors enhances their ability to critically evaluate beer and appreciate the efforts involved in producing a flawless pint. Prevention through meticulous brewing practices is the best defense against beer faults. Packaging and labeling. Packaging is the final step in preparing wine and beer for market, protecting the product from spoilage and ensuring its quality reaches the consumer. Common packaging formats include glass bottles, aluminum cans, and kegs. Glass bottles are traditional for wine and many beers, offering excellent protection against oxygen and allowing for aging. though they are susceptible to light strike and breakage. Aluminum cans are increasingly popular for beer due to their lightweight, portability, complete light protection, and recyclability. Kegs are primarily used for draft beer, designed for bulk storage and dispensing in bars and restaurants. The choice of packaging depends on the product style, target market, distribution channels, and desired shelf life. Each format has specific advantages and disadvantages that brewers and vintners must consider. Labeling is not only crucial for branding and marketing, but also for conveying essential information and complying with legal and regulatory requirements. Labels must accurately state the product type, for example, red wine, IPA, alcohol by volume, ABV, net contents, and producer information. Depending on the region, labels may also require vintage, grape varietal, appellation of origin, allergen warnings, and government health warnings. The design and aesthetics of the label play a significant role in attracting consumers and communicating the brand's identity. However, strict adherence to legal mandates is paramount to avoid penalties and ensure consumer safety. Brewers and vintners must navigate a complex web of regulations to ensure their products are legally compliant and effectively marketed. A well-designed and informative label is a silent salesperson and a legal necessity. Sensory evaluation techniques. Sensory evaluation is the systematic assessment of a wine or beer's characteristics using the human senses: sight, smell, taste, and touch, mouthfeel. It is a fundamental skill for brewers, vintners, and enthusiasts alike, allowing for quality control, fault detection, and appreciation of stylistic nuances. The process typically begins with visual inspection, observing clarity, color, and effervescence for beer, or legs for wine. Color can indicate age, style, and potential faults. Clarity is a key indicator of proper processing and stability. Next, aroma is assessed by smelling the beverage, identifying primary aromas from the grape or malt, secondary aromas from fermentation, and tertiary aromas from aging. This step requires careful attention to detail and a developed olfactory memory. A systematic approach ensures all aspects are considered. The taste phase involves taking a small sip and allowing the liquid to coat the palate, evaluating sweetness, acidity, bitterness, and umami for some wines. For beer, bitterness from hops is a key component, while for wine, acidity and tannin structure are paramount. Mouthfeel, or the tactile sensations in the mouth, includes body, carbonation, astringency, and warmth from alcohol. The finish refers to the lingering flavors and sensations after swallowing. Professional tasters often use standardized tasting sheets to record their observations, ensuring consistency and objectivity. Regular practice and exposure to a wide range of products are essential for developing a refined palate and accurately identifying specific attributes and faults. Sensory evaluation is both an art and a science, crucial for understanding and appreciating fermented beverages. Legal and regulatory aspects. The production and sale of wine and beer are subject to a complex web of legal and regulatory frameworks that vary significantly by country, region, and even local jurisdiction. These regulations cover everything from licensing requirements for producers and retailers to taxation, alcohol content limits, and advertising restrictions. Compliance is paramount to operate legally and avoid severe penalties. For instance, in many countries, there are strict rules regarding who can produce alcohol, where it can be sold, and the hours of sale. Understanding these legal landscapes is not just about avoiding fines. It's about responsible production and distribution, ensuring consumer safety and public welfare. Navigating these laws requires diligence and often legal expertise. Key regulatory aspects also include appellation systems for wine, such as France's Appellation d'origine contrôlée, AOC, Italy's Denominazione di origine controllata, DOC, and the United States American Viticultural Areas, AVAs. These systems define geographical boundaries and often dictate grape varieties, viticultural practices, and winemaking methods to ensure quality and authenticity tied to a specific region. For beer, similar, though less formalized. Geographical indications exist, alongside regulations on ingredients, example Germany's Reinheitsgebot. Labeling laws are also crucial, requiring accurate information on alcohol content, allergens, and health warnings. International trade agreements further complicate matters, influencing import-export duties and labeling standards. A thorough understanding of these legal and regulatory aspects is essential for any successful venture in the wine and beer industry. Ensuring products meet both quality standards and legal mandates